Starting from where we ended yesterday. So I gave you a question for reflection from your book. And the question was that imagine you were a doctor. What are some of the things a doctor does that might require language, knowledge, or skills? ठीक है, ये तो आपने करना था reflect. But if you imagine yourself in contextually, if you imagine yourself contextually, your present context is of course Pakistan. Uh, then your language needs are different. Of course, you need to speak the language of the patient in order to understand and in order to make the patient understand what you are talking about. Okay, just leave it aside. Put yourself in a context where doctors go abroad, for instance, in the Middle East. Okay, which countries are the Middle East, by the way? What's happening in the Middle East now? Anyone? Which countries are Middle East countries? I'm just referring to those because they speak a different language, right?
Mostly Arab countries.
Yeah, those are the Middle Eastern countries. Okay, imagine yourself as a doctor who is working in a Middle East country, right? Where people know Arabic and where people know English. So, of course, you would opt for English because you know English, but you do not know the specific kind of language that might be required in that particular context while you are communicating with the patient. Okay. So, when you are thinking of ESP, think about that. Okay, a doctor working in Middle East, and the language of communication between you and the patient is English. Now, who is going to answer this question? Imagine you were a doctor. What are some of the things a doctor does that might require language, knowledge, or skills? If you have reflected on it, that's really wonderful. But if you have read the chapter, your answer would be more, relevant. Who is answering this question very, very quickly? Okay. What are the special skills, or what is the specific kind of language that needs to be learned by the doctors in order to communicate with the patient? Let's put it this way, what are the ESP needs of a doctor? Okay, who is answering that? You can raise your hands, you can go to the chat box, whatever is easier for you and feasible at this time. Yes, Aska. I haven't heard from you for long. Let's listen to Aska. Yes, Aska. What are the ESP needs of doctors? Like we discussed the ESP needs of pilots yesterday. Okay, because they are talking to the control section, and then they need to communicate a lot of information, whatever is happening in the air while they are flying. So, what might be the needs of the doctors? Yes, Aska. I wish I could see your pictures here, but like you can see my picture. I could have recognized you then better. If you do not answer when I ask you to, that means you're not there. Okay, Aska has done something in the chat. Let's read her answer. Okay, right. Okay. Uh, Prescription, discussing their symptoms. Other than that, doctors also attend conferences. They are required to write down papers because they are expected to do certain researches also. So this is nice. Aska has told us one of the many needs, ESP needs of the doctors, but other ESP needs are, uh, you know, um, attending conferences that need language, doing research, putting your research in the form of the papers. All of this are ESP needs of doctors. Okay, right. So this we have done. Now, we already let's go to the presentation. We have discussed this, what counts as ESP needs, and we talked about the linguistic, non-linguistic needs and the linguistic components in detail yesterday, and I hope that is very, very clear. Okay. Uh, right here, if we need to differentiate between ESP and GE, GE stands for General English, and in today's lecture, we are going to come across a lot of abbreviation. We would be deciphering those abbreviation that are related to ESP. So GE is one of the abbreviation which stands for General English, and that differentiates from ESP. Okay. Now, General English is basically teaching of grammar, and that is for the basic learning purpose of learning English as a language, not for a specific need. Okay, you need to differentiate between GE and ESP. ESP is basically need based. Okay, General English is not specifically need based. Uh, General English is taught to everyone who is learning English. Okay, from grade one. They do not know what are their particular needs, are only learning English. They are not learning English in order to communicate. For instance, if you are being taught past tense, okay, there is no specific purpose of teaching past tense. It is just part of the grammar of the language. There is no aim in mind. Where are you going to use this? But this would be used at a number of places. Okay, right? So, I don't know if we did the definition, but we can quickly do the definition today. We did the definition in the class with section A day before yesterday. Anyway, you can look at the definition, which is quite clear to you because we have done a number of things in this definition. Now, first thing is ESP is a method, okay, of teaching English as a second language. It can also be called as an approach. Okay, just find out the difference between the method and the approach. That this is for your next lecture. Just remember that this is your homework to find out method and an approach. Now, English for specific purposes is a method, and it is also an approach of language teaching. Okay, English as a second language or language for that matter. Now, how do we differentiate a simple teaching and teaching of ESP? Because ESP is targeted. ESP is taught for needs. General English or English for any other matter is not need based. It is not with a purpose. Okay. For instance, you're taught direct and indirect speech. It might help you later on in communication. But see, how are you taught? You are taught through isolated sentences. Okay. So, in isolated sentences, there is no particular purpose. You might not use those sentences anytime in your life. You might or might not use because those are general ones. When you are being taught tenses, you're taught separately. You're asked to convert present tense to past tense. There is no aim and there is no target. Where are you going to use it? Right? So the assumption is that when you would be fluent in grammar, you would be able to write Angrezi and you'll be able to speak Angrezi correctly, but there is no focused need or aim about it. Okay. But ESP is that kind of an approach to language teaching that targets the current or future two kinds of needs: academic needs or occupational needs of learners. Okay. And it only focuses on necessary language. All the whole language is not taught. But the whole language can never be taught. Language is so broad, but specific portions, you can say, or sections, or whatever is the need, is taught. There are and all the skills are not the focused. In general English, I told you that there are just four skills that we have been talking about. Whenever we talk about teaching of Angrezi, we talk about four skills, and that are part of general English. Okay. Other than that, besides these skills, there are metacognitive skills also, uh, which are needed for occupational purposes also, for academic also, but for more for occupational purposes. When I say that metacognitive skills are needed for occupational purposes, I do not mean that, the basic four skills are not needed for occupational purposes. Besides those four skills of reading, writing, listening, and speaking, there are metacognitive, skills that need to be taught to the learners. And yesterday we discussed metacognitive skills. Just go to your chat boxes and write down some of the metacognitive skills that we discussed yesterday very, very quickly. Go to your chat box. I'm not, calling out the name of the students, but anyone can go to the chat box and let's see who replies fast. My question is, what are metacognitive skills? Name some of the metacognitive skills we have discussed yesterday also. And if you have, gone through the chapter, you must have found out the metacognitive skills. Very, very quickly, please. Okay, planning. Nisa says planning, monitoring, evaluating. That's very nice. Fatima says this, and then Mispa is there. Bisma. High planning. What is high planning? Analytical skills are metacognitive. Okay. Evaluating skills are metacognitive, right? When you analyze the data, when you evaluate a situation, you evaluate anything, that is metacognitive. Planning is metacognitive. Okay. What else? Okay, Khatima. Khatima, we know you as very proficient in AI. You're famous for this amongst the teachers that Khatima Pashtun is very, proficient in AI. Is this the AI? It's the boss in your brain that is overseeing your own learning and thinking process. Thank you. I just asked you. I did not ask you what are metacognitive skills that we have discussed yesterday, but I'm just asking you to name a few. Anyway, you all have answered this correctly, and these are the more metacognitive skills. That is, more than simple cognition. That needs more of the thinking. Okay, all right, you're quite right. That's nice. Okay, so we were doing the definition. So there are two kinds of needs that are targeted by ESP, and there are multiple sub needs also. Um, it takes into consideration the skills, the basic skills, and the more metacognitive skills. And how do we do that? Basically, when you say that this is need based approach, that is, you need to know the needs of the learners. Okay, first of all, the needs of the learners need to be evaluated, then accordingly method and material is proposed for them. Okay, so one kind of material, that means that one kind of material and one kind of method cannot be used for another group of students, because the needs of the student would be different from one group of students to the other group of students. Okay, um, need is basically based on their different professions or their academic goals. Okay. For instance, yesterday I told you and I gave you an example of IELTS, which is a proficiency test for many of the countries, for many of the European countries, for instance, UK, Australia, uh, and it is valid in some other non English speaking countries as well. So, not only that, there are two kinds of IELTS. One is the academic IELTS because the needs are different. Those who are taking the test for academic purposes, or they are taking academic IELTS, their aim is to study or go to these countries for higher education. Otherwise, there is general IELTS also. The needs are different. Basically, what you need to remember when we talk about ESP, simply speaking, is a language teaching approach targeting the needs of the students. Okay. Otherwise, whenever you were being taught GE, that is General English, we did not have a clear of teaching. It's only about teaching a language, that you know the language. For what purposes, that is not really in mind of the teacher or the student till we are doing this GE, General English. Okay. So I hope the difference between General English, GE, and ESP is clear to you. Okay. Now getting back to the definition here. This is, in other words, while you're defining ESP, this is discipline specific teaching. Okay. Therefore, it has different material and method. Now, coming back to method, ESP, I told you, is an approach and it's a method, it's a need based method. Uh, Also, I told you that as ESP teacher, you can and you have the right to keep on changing methods and material according to whatever is the need. I'll tell you later in the lecture how would you get to know the needs of the student. But my question is, what is eclectic approach? Yesterday we discussed eclectic approach, and ESP is an eclectic approach basically. What is an eclectic approach? Get to your chat box. Yes, guys. Okay, Nissa is right. Combination of teaching methods. Anyone else who would like to comment on this? Yeah, combination of teaching methods, strategies, and approaches. But this is very much true. Now, why do we have this relaxation, especially for ESP teaching or ESP teacher? It is because um, and it is not that there is just one purpose or one need is being targeted. Doctors can have multiple needs, multiple language needs. For instance, we just said that they need to write the prescription and they need to maybe attend the conferences, they need to write the research paper. So there are multiple needs, right? So when you are teaching them, it is just not one need, one medical need. You cannot target it as that one aviational need. Within the course or within the syllabus, there are multiple needs that need to be targeted. Therefore, you are allowed to use a number of methods. And yesterday, we talked about different methods for different purposes. For instance, for translators, you can teach them through grammar translation method, teaching them how to translate from one language to another language. And this teaching is a formal kind of a translation. Okay. Otherwise, informally we keep on translating from one language to another language. But when it comes to specific uh, skill of translation, it needs to be taught to the students. Okay. And pronunciation, there might be a number of ways of teaching pronunciation, but As far as the method is concerned, there's a drill method which is called as audiolingual method, repetition, imitation. You imitate, or the students imitate their teachers. So that happens to be a very good method in order to learn the correct pronunciation. Okay. You must have come across while you are reading reading a text in any of the languages, we do not know the accurate pronunciation. A number of times we mispronounce English words also, because they are not pronounced as they are spelled, right? So we only get to know the correct pronunciation while we are watching English movies, or while if we have taken up a specific course, English course, where the teachers pronounce words correctly. Only we then we can imitate and have the correct pronunciation. Otherwise, reading on our own wouldn't help improve the pronunciation actually, right? So that is why this is also called as eclectic approach. ESP is also called as eclectic approach, or it takes up eclectic method, which can be a combination of methods to teach according to different needs of the set of students that are being taught. Okay. So as I told you that there can be several needs, but we divide the needs into two. Okay. Basically these are the two needs, and then there can be sub needs also. One is the academic need, the other is the occupational need. Okay. Academic need, they support your study task. They enable you to comprehend the lectures. Okay. They enable you to read your course books. Okay. They enable you to write down your assignments and your term papers or your examination papers. This is the academic need, right? As far as the occupational or professional need is concerned, there are as many needs as there are professions. Within the profession, there are multiple needs inside. Uh, for instance, teaching presentation. If you teach a presentation, it has an academic purpose, it has an occupational purpose. For academic purpose, you need it for your semester credit presentation, and for occupational purposes, in a number of organization, you are required to present. And if you become a teacher, you are presenting every day, right? So this presentation skills is both academic and occupational. And there are so many other skills that are both academic and professional. So it becomes really fuzzy. There is no clear boundary, because whatever you are learning now for your academic needs might help you in your professional lives also. So those are your occupational needs automatically. Okay. Other than that, presentation is both. I told you that that's an academic need as well as an occupational need. But then learning some of the phrases specific, जिनको हम, if you have done your sociolinguistics, जिनको हम jargons कहते हैं, you need to know the jargons. Linguistics के अपने jargons हैं, morphemes, phonemes, morphology, ESP, all of the abbreviations that we would try to learn today. These are all jargons of linguistics. Okay, um, in every field they have their own jargons. Aviation has its own jargons. The field of medicine, engineering, for that matter, um, all of these jargons. So this becomes a part of ESP when professionals are being trained in a language or in English language. They are told these jargons because the communication becomes very different. Okay, our communication is different from what the ongoing communication, call it lecture also, but it's a communication. Much of it is one-sided, but still it's a communication. So this communication is very much different of what is happening right now in chemistry department. Their communication is different. The needs are academic, but the communication becomes very different because of the presence of jargons. Similar is the case with many of the occupational needs because of the difference in different occupations, right? So some of the needs might be in clear boundaries between academic and occupational needs, but the the borders or the boundaries are quite fuzzy. Okay, you learn to write the basics. Okay, and then you learn to write an application that serves academic purpose also, because you need to write application, leave application, or sick application. But then when you join a certain profession, you still need application. The subject might be different of the applications, but or of the emails or of the letters, but you learned it for your academic need because you wanted to clear a paper, but that stays your need in your different occupations or professions. So sometimes academic needs become your professional needs also, or your occupational needs also. So when you learn those skills, they fulfill your needs at both levels, academic and occupational. Okay. Now, ESP courses uh, are usually for the non-native speakers. Basically, जो English है, when we talk about TEFL and TEST, the teaching of English to the other languages, जिसको हम TESOL कहते हैं, या TEFL, teaching of English to the speakers of foreign language, या teaching of English to as second language, जिसको हम TESL कहते हैं, TESL, TEFL, TESOL. All these abbreviations um, are related to teaching of English as a second language, as a foreign language to the speakers of other languages. So that means that ESP, as a part of applied linguistics and as a part of teaching methods, this is also for the non-native speakers. Okay, because native speakers work around the language; they have the skills too. But non-native speakers are actually taught how to use the language in different contexts and different situations. Okay, so basically what you need to remember is, this is for the second language speakers, I mean non-native speakers. Okay. um, there are some of the examples, and then I would like to read. You can catch up later on. For instance, in Japanese universities, you can find ESP courses that help science students learn how to listen to and understand content lectures given in English through a process of note taking and discussion. Okay. The example of Japanese students is given. This example is as relevant for you if you go to Japan, but of course you keep your medium of studies English, right? So people who go to any other country and they are their medium of degree is English, so they need to be taught ESP. They'll have specific needs of as students. The needs would be academic needs, and later on the needs can be academic needs, uh, occupational needs, and there are some examples I would like to read. और ये कल हम कर चुके. In the aviation industry, pilots receive specialized language training so that they can communicate effectively with flight controllers, avoiding communication errors that can lead to injury or death. Yesterday we did this example. We can also find ESP courses offered as part of vocational training, such as in the Philippines and India, where workers at call centers are guided on how to respond appropriately to confused or irate customer. ये भी हम call center की example भी we have already done. If you know English, it does not guarantee that you will be able to communicate perfectly if you start working at a call center. You must have noticed, if you call for some complaint to Ufone or to Zong customer care, or you have done some online shopping, or you have booked your tickets online, and then you call their helpline. Helplines are basically call centers. You must have seen that they have a specific style of speaking, and some of the sentences you would hear from all of them. Okay, and some of the sentences are heard before the call begins के ये call क्वालिटी के मैार को कंट्रोल करने के लिए रिकॉर्ड की जा रही है. दिस इज द रिकॉर्डेड मैसेज. ठीक है. And then you must have observed that none of the person at a call center would misbehave when you complain against them. Okay, they'll be very calm. They'll always greet you. They'll introduce themselves. Okay, so this is a part of their training. Of course they know the language, but how to communicate with the customer, this is how they are taught, and this is a part of ESP. Okay, how would you greet, how would you start the conversation, how would you calm down angry customers, all of this is a part of ESP. Okay, because here in Pakistan also in call centers, you have an option whether you would like to talk in Urdu or English or some other language, but whoever is talking to you in Angrezi, they are specifically trained through ESP for call centers. Okay. Now, um, there is a difference between. We need to discuss this. We have discussed the skills. We need to discuss some genres also. What is the difference between a genre and skill? Language, genre, skill. Okay, what is the difference between skill and genre? Or you may define skill or genre for me, and the difference would come up automatically. What is the difference between genre and skill? Yes, guys. Skills हम कर चुके हैं. I'm more interested in what is genre. This is spelled as Genre, but it is pronounced as genre. What is a genre? Quickly, language leads to genre. How would you now understand what is a genre? Quickly, guys. I'm more interested in. Okay. I remember this girl, Khatima, but I'm unable to, recall your face, Khatima. I know you're a smart student, but right now I'm unable to, bring you into my memory. I mean, in my mind. You are in my memory, you are not in my mind right now. Yes, Bisma, Mahnur. Oh, we have a guy, Zaviyar. Siddiqa. Yes, Siddiqa. Shira is a good. सारे अच्छे स्टूडेंट्स आए हुए. Okay. Yes, Nisa. Yes, Khatma. Reply without AI. What is your understanding of AI? What is your understanding of genre? Shira is here. Siddiqa is here. Muska is here. हाँ. Genre is type or category communicate that people recognize. Okay. It is type of or category. Different styles of writing. It is a kind or type of category, or literature may you must have studied, these are the literary genres. Drama is a genre, novel is a genre, and then poetry is a genre, and it has sub-genres also. Okay, for instance, epic is a genre of poetry. Sonnet is a genre of poetry, right? So you have an understanding of genre. Now, genre is actually a spoken or written product of a language. Language leads to a genre. When you learn a language, you produce something that is a genre. For instance, your final paper is a writing genre. You know that you have to adopt, or you have to consider, or you have to apply a specific style in writing a paper. It cannot be informal. You cannot use shorthands. You cannot use abbreviations. And this is very much different from your writing of messages or WhatsApp messages, or how do you interact in the social media. This is very, very different from how to you write a formal kind of a paper. Okay. It is style also, and it is a product. Genre is a product. Okay, just remember that genre is a language product. Research paper, और ये spoken भी हो सकता है genre, and it is written also if this happens to be a newer information, because previously we believed that whatever comes as a product, as a written product, is a genre. But genre is also spoken. Presentation, it has a different language. You make slides and then you present. You don't just read the slides, but you explain, you give example, you relate it to real life. A good presentation should be like that. So you're using language, the product is a presentation. So presentation is a genre, and presentation is a spoken genre. Then letter is a genre, and within the letter there are formal, informal letters, and there are business letters. All of this is the subgenre of letter writing. Prescription by the doctor is a product of the language, and it comes in written genre. Okay, so all of that, whatever newspaper ads, uh, your formal communication, okay, your presentation in the conference, writing a research paper is a genre. When you present the same research paper, that becomes another genre, because that's a spoken genre, right? So I hope this genre is clearer to you. Skills are your abilities, okay? And we have talked about the basic skills and the metacognitive skills. Okay, now I would like you to, I would like to tell you some of the abbreviations which are here as branches of ESP. Okay, one is ESP, English for specific purposes. Okay, GE we have done, which is called as the general English, right? And then we have EAP, English for academic purposes. Okay, so English for academic purposes is a branch of English for specific purposes. Okay, and then English for occupational purposes, EOP we call it, right? But we have discussed all these branches, so I'm not elaborating on this, but I'm just telling you okay, these are some of the branches of ESP. English for general academic purposes, EGAP, English for general academic purposes, and English for specific academic purposes, ESAP. EGAP and ESAP are the branches of uh, English for academic purposes. EAP की branches हैं ये, ESAP and EGAP. Then English for occupational purposes में English for vocational purposes, EVP is a branch. Okay. English for research publication purposes. This is what we teach you in research methodology, how to write a paper. You already know the Angrezi, but this is a different skill of writing the paper. It is not that anyone who is good at writing would be good at writing a research paper also. It needs a different kind of a training and a different kind of course. The whole course of research methodology actually is a part of ESP because it teaches you how to write English for research publication. It is a different kind of English. English for business purposes, occupational need है ये. English for medical purposes, English for nursing purposes, aviation English. Okay, all of this is given in your book also as part of branches of ESP. We do not need any elaboration, but we need to know what these uh, क्या कहते हैं इनको, abbreviations stand for. Okay, English for atomic and nuclear physics. Different fields of science also need some kind of English. Okay, and this is English for specific purposes, English for occupational purposes. There is a mind map. It is given if your books are at hand, or you can check those later on. This is page number 25 of your book. Okay, your homework is, first of all, you need to figure out between a method and an approach. Okay, and secondly, you will be reading page number 25. Just go through this. I don't want you to rote learn it, but you will have some branches and sub branches of ESP. uh, Two main branches that we have done: EAP, English for academic purposes, and then English for occupational purposes. And then English for academic purposes is English for general academic purposes, English for specific academic purposes. उसमें सारे आपकी, these are the fields for academic purposes: chemistry, biology, mechanical engineering, mathematics. All of this is given if you look at page number 25 of the book that I've sent you. एटॉमिक एंड न्यूक्लियर के लिए है quantum, relativist, solid state, condensed state, all of that. Then English for occupational purposes: medicine, nursing, business, tourism, airline industry, pilots and taught language, air traffic control, vocational, pre-vocational, construction workers, restaurant workers, phone operators, interview skills, teamwork, scheduling, emergency room nursing. All of this is given in on page number 25. I would only like you to, you should need some of the abbreviations and just see how broad this field is. Okay. Um now, uh, I have given you the homework. Lastly, my question is, how do you get to know the needs of the students? Because when you become an ESP teacher, the first thing is to know the needs of the students. If you do not know the needs of the students, how would you develop their method and material? So my question is, if you have gone through this chapter, or if you have skimmed through the chapter, how do you get to know the needs of the student? The first thing first. How do you do that? Quickly. How do you get to know the needs of the students or specific group of people? Okay. How would you know that, Aska? You go to the class, how do you know the needs? You're right, you're right. You are going to evaluate it, but how do you do that? Yes, Nisa, how do you do that? Ikra is also here. Bisma, Shira. Yes, Shira. Observing. Okay. By asking. Muska is right, by asking, and I'll tell you how do you actually ask. You cannot ask one by one, or each one of the students, asking them directly. Okay, okay. Asking is the right answer. Now there is a way of asking. You just cannot go and ask like 15 students. They would tell you different needs. It doesn't go like that. Mm, Actually, you do certain research, and this research is called as needs analysis. It's a special kind of research where you get to know the needs of the students, and this is the first step for ESP. Okay, you need to know the needs of the students through needs analysis. You collect the data from the class or the group of people or the set of students that are assigned to you, and then you put certain question. I'll tell you what kind of questions are there in needs analysis. I wrote a paper with one of my students on needs analysis. I'll find it out and I'll send you the link also. You can read that paper also. So there are some specific questions. You sometimes adapt the questionnaire and then you get to know the needs, and then you're the one as ESP teacher develop a course for them. The end of this course would be, you're going to develop your ESP courses, but later on in the semester. For now, you have to do three things. Okay, one is finding out the difference between approach method. Secondly, reading page number, I don't know, it's page number, how could it be page number 25? It's page number 14, guys. I just misread it. 14 पर एक बना हुआ है चार्ट सा, you need to read that. Or page number 16 पे you have to do this task. I'm reading this task for you, but just remember that this is task 1.1, plotting a path to ESP. This is on page number 16, contextualizing ESP. Pick an academic discipline or career profession that interests you from the chart. Okay, try to extend the branches and sub-branches of ESP presented in figure 1.1. You have to extend the branches, or you can just select a field and then extend the branches to include the discipline or profession that you choose. What difficulties do you have? Now, what you have to do is you have to choose a particular profession. Okay, first thing first. By profession, I mean um, EOP, for occupational purposes. You would be working for English for occupational purposes. So you select a field or a subfield and then place it in the chart that you have studied. Okay. What can be the sub branches of that field, and then from the sub branch which field you are choosing. And then what you're supposed to do is um, what might be the need of that particular subfield or that particular profession that you have chosen. Okay. I hope you have understood this. Did you? Have you understood your homework? You have to do three things. Is it clear, guys? Just raise your hands if the homework is clear. Please raise your hands. There's a feature of raising hands. Okay. Oh, so Asif is here. I was worried. Okay. Ikra got it. Shira also. Right. You have understood the uh, homework, right? So please do this homework in writing, and next time uh, we are expected to meet on campus, but in any case, the class would be conducted either online, whatever is more feasible for us, and let's see how things go. So, um, for the rest of the class, you can keep doing your the signed work also. I would like you to read from the book whatever we have done today, revise it, get to know the abbreviations, and try to attempt a 1.1 task also on page number 16. Next time we will be focusing. First of all, I need a little discussion on whatever I have taught you today, whatever I have assigned you. I'll be asking about that, and then we'll move to characteristics features of ESP, our next topic and probably the last topic of this chapter. we hope to cover this chapter in the next class. Okay, I hope things are clear. If you have any questions, you can communicate to me through your CR. You can write to me also, and I'll see you next week. Okay, so take care, guys. Have a nice day.